From the mid-15th century to the 17th century, explorations conducted by Spanish and Portuguese explorers sparked inspiration from the remaining maritime empires to travel overseas. The increased European activity in seas like the Atlantic Ocean caused competition amongst the European states. Spain. In 1492, Columbus sailed west sponsored by King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella of Spain. 1493, Columbus arrived in the New World and established City Isabella, the first Spanish settlement in Hispaniola.
Do I have your permission to sail west in the name of Portugal?
No, Columbus.
King Ferdinand of Spain, do I have your permission to sail west in the name of Spain?
Yes, Columbus, you do.
After Columbus arrived to the New World, he communicated to Queen Isabel and King Ferdinand that there were uncharted lands. The Spanish authority, motivated by the thought of abundant bullion and new convents for Catholicism, sent multiple Spanish conquistadors and explorers to the land, specifically to Central and South America. 1 year later, in 1494, the Treaty of Tordesillas was signed between Spain and Portugal. Both European states made an agreement to neatly divide the New World into two sections.
I will call this land Isabella, after the name of my queen.
Soon after, Spanish explorers settled in the Iberian Peninsula, a social hierarchy system called the caste system was established. The caste system was created so the European race could maintain power throughout generations. Family or children with the most European ties would be at the top of the hierarchy, and families with the least amount of European race involvement would be at the bottom. Caste paintings were created so people in Spain could understand the different social levels relating to race, complexion, occupation, and wealth. In the beginning of the 1500s, Spain entered phase 2 of their conquest. Spain had commissioned Hernán Cortés, a Spanish conquistador, to conduct onslaught of the Aztec Empire and later the Mayan civilization. In 1521, Hernán Cortés and his military destroyed the Aztec Empire, conquering a huge portion of the land, later traveling deeper into South America. The established Spanish army conducted multiple attacks on the Mayans that lasted from 1551 to 1697. Around 1526, King Charles I of Spain granted Francisco Pizarro the permission to conquer the Inca Empire, and in 1532, Pizarro captured King Atahualpa of the Inca Empire, which resulted in Spanish domination of the era. Back in the New World, the mines established there yielded abundant amounts of gold and silver. And because the king enacted the policy that Quinto Real, where 20% of all mineral products were given to Spanish tax, Spain was accumulating a lot of wealth. After about 1492, or the first conquest by Christopher Columbus in the Caribbean, a system known as the Encomienda system was enacted by the Spanish royalties and applied by the Spaniards settling in Americas. Officials of established Spanish settlements were given grant of land called repartimiento, and any indigenous people living in the borders of the granted land were forced to pay tribute and supply labor to sugarcane farms or mines. The repartimientos inspired the Encomienda, which was present to indigenous people as a way of giving back. Essentially, the Encomiendas would convert and educate the natives about Christianity, but instead they were disastrous and added tremendously to the inhumane suffering that Native Americans were already experiencing. Encomenderos would instill the information about Christianity through numerous amounts of torturing. That plus torturing came from forced labor destroyed native communities. Peru, more than any other region, was experiencing encomiendas in the greatest magnitude. Reformers like Bartolomé de las Casas made the Spanish monarch aware of cruelties happening as a result of the encomiendas, and it wasn't until 1542 that King Charles I of Spain passed a set of new laws that nullified oppression of Native Americans. Spanish elites in the Americas were predictably very upset by these new laws, and it led to multiple conquistador uprisings and civil wars. The internal battles nearly resulted in loss of control over Peru, and the king dissolved both systems. John Cabot was employed by the English government to discover new lands. He first sailed from Bristol in the Matthew in 1497. It is not clear where the small fleet went, but two likely locations are Nova Scotia or Newfoundland. They did not find the passage to China for which they were looking for. A second voyage was made in 1498, but 4 of the 5 ships vanished. The first successful British colony in America was set up in 1607 at Jamestown. It languished until a new wave of colonists arrived in the late 17th century and set up commercial agriculture based on tobacco. A British invention called the blast furnace was used to melt iron at very high temperatures. In 1625, Charles I took the throne for England. He wanted money to fight Spain and France, and in 1628, Parliament refused to grant him money until he signed a document called the Petition of Right, which acknowledged that he would not imprison subjects with due cause, he would not levy taxes without Parliament's consent, house soldiers in private homes, and not impose martial law in peacetime. He agreed to the Petition of Right, then ignored it. Still, the idea was important. The law was higher than the king. In 1629, Charles I dissolved Parliament, raised money by imposing more fines on the people. Charles I became very unpopular and angered Puritans keeping rituals in the Anglican Church, tried to force Presbyterian Scots to accept Anglican prayer book. Scots rebelled, threatened to invade England. In 1641, Parliament passed more laws to limit royal power. Charles I tried to have Parliament's leaders arrested. England was now split between Royalists, who were loyal to Charles, and Puritan supporters of Parliament. In 1642 through 1649, the English had a civil war. It was Puritans versus Royalists, and Oliver Cromwell, a Puritan general, proved to make the difference. Puritans won. In 1649, Charles I was found guilty for treason against Parliament and was the first monarch to be publicly executed.
King Charles I, you have caused a civil war and thus disrupted this nation. You have brought this upon yourself, and this is what you deserve.
John Baptiste, 1619 through 1683, served as the first minister of state from 1661 until he died in 1683, and served under King Louis XIV. During term, he also presided over the economic policy of France. During the 17th century, economic wealth was measured in the amount of physical bullion or silver an empire had. Jean-Baptiste came up with the economic theory of mercantilism and applied it to France in 1661. It lasted into the 17th century after his death. Mercantilism is the theory that in order for an empire to grow their economy, they need to have more exports than imports to preserve and grow their bullion.
King Louis XIV, I have this idea.
Baptiste, what is it?
So, it's this idea called mercantilism, where we always export more goods than we import. Therefore, we're always making money.
I like that. Let's use that. Jacques Cartier, 1491 through 1557. In 1535, the French navigator Jacques Cartier was sponsored by King Francis I to explore the New World for a Northwest Passage and gold. He did not find a Northwest Passage in North America. However, he sailed into the St. Lawrence River in Canada and claimed it for France. This devilishly handsome man is King Francis I from 1494 through 1547. He was the first monarch in France to sponsor an exploration to the Americas in 1535. Francis was the son of Charles de, whose last name I will not even try to pronounce, and on the occasion of his cousin Louis VII in 1498, Francis became heir presumptive and was given the Duchy of Valois. Sadly for nobody except maybe Miss Bueller, this is the end of our video. Thank you all for watching, and now's the time where you can stand up and give us a round of applause because I know we're awesome. Okay, yeah, mainly me, not Lydia at all. Alright, thanks guys.